everybody. Let's carry on with our sci-fi creepy characters from the game. So today we have Nilfa. Nilfa is the quintessential glass cannon character. So if you like the idea of going in, doing huge amounts of damage, and then getting out of there before anyone can even see you, let alone attack you, then this character is the one for you. So how she works is you've got a couple of choices from the start. You can either sort of start your journey as the massive DPS, the damage dealer character, or you can go through her special sort of mini game, and we kind of talked about this before, the mini games and the game idea. So every character has their own special little unique way of just keeping more fun in the game, and sort of something that not only affects how they work within battles, but in exploring the world. And Nilfa's is really cool. She burrows into the ground, so whenever she wants, she can like tunnel into the ground like a giant worm. And she's got these long appendages, really long elongated limbs, and she's got this long powerful tail that she uses to sort of graboid into the earth, given that she's in soft ground. So there's actually a play on where you are in the world sometimes affects how your character can to interact with it. So you would have to have sort of soft earth. So if you were fighting an enemy and you had rock, that might be fantastic for the sort of the druid class that I don't think we talked about at all. But it would be pretty awful for Nilfa because she wouldn't be able to use that ability to go into the ground. So yeah, so how it works is you essentially, when you start doing it low level and before you've upgraded the abilities, you are essentially blind. So you roll a series of dice, and I will go into this at some point. I'll do like little mini playthroughs, which I think will start to give a bit more to the world and how the game mechanics work, and rather than it just being entirely random. So yeah, you tunnel into the ground, and when you're in the ground, you obviously would take a lot less damage, and maybe some enemies just couldn't attack you in any way, shape or form, especially the sort of psychic ones. They would really struggle to figure out how to actually hurt you. And I'm even trying to figure out myself, the AI, how would it work if you were tunneled the entire time? But we'll figure that out at some point. So yeah, when you first get the ability, it's very much you are blind, and you're sort of attacking blind, and even movement is entirely blind until you sort of upgrade your discovery, which is essentially your perception, perception abilities and stuff. And so there is a lot of stat building for this character to get the most out of her and her underground movement abilities. So until you get that, you're sort of attacking just about anything around you, and you move randomly. So it's a bit of a tricksy character. Got some cool ways of negotiating the world and sort of negating damage, but also with that there's sort of total luck really with some of her abilities. So take it all with a pinch of salt. Yeah, it's quite a fun character to play with, and every time that anyone's ever actually played with the character, which aren't too many people, but they've said they really enjoyed it, because everyone else sort of has this sense of the luck of the game sort of being reduced as much as possible, because there's nothing worse than you go to do your turn and you miss, and then you're like, oh okay, well I'll just sit here like a potato for the next 2-3 minutes for everyone else to take their turn. So I've tried to negate that as much as possible, but the randomness of her feels like it works, until you upgrade, and then by that point you are a bit of a monster, really. Most of the characters, you have a sense of progression, and once you got to that point, you feel like, oh, I've achieved that. So yeah, that's the sort of the idea of it. Normally I do her more of just a huge shroud covering her whole body, but we've done a few of those. We've done Luna, the Nightmare one, we've done Dawn, and they're very similar in how they are, covered in shroud. So I thought today I'd do a bit of a different version of her, and to be honest, I quite like it. It's a very rogue-esque, this one, So yeah, she's got big, powerful thighs. She got a big, powerful tail. She's kind of got like a little bit of like barbarian-esque in here as well, and I quite like that. I might keep that. Yeah, I think I will actually. She's not like massively muscular or anything, but just she needs to be able to show that she could burrow into the ground, in a second, that sort of look to her. Cool. So she's kind of flamingoing at the moment, just on one leg, and I guess the other foot would be wrapped around here. I don't want to do it because it's going to get in the way of the tail. But, whenever when I was designing her, the sort of the xenomorph from Alien came to mind, and I just like the bone-like tail that protrudes from her lower back. And so that sort of, that kind of moves to the next bit I was going to ramble about quite well. So I first mentioned that there was 2 ways of playing her, and the one was the glass cannony. So her bit of her kit is about finding equipment, or trading for it, or stealing, I suppose. However you want to get this equipment, you can always build it. If you take out that sort of ability tree of, I can't think what the word is, like jobs. Yeah, sort of like that. Sort of like a job, isn't it? But sort of blacksmithing. But so how she gets more damage is she has this sort of whip abilities that she can either do it sort of freestanding and just whip her tail around cleaving, doing multiple attacks, or she can do it through the ground when she's burrowed, but you'll have sort of a disadvantage of accuracy until you upgrade more bits on her. But you basically, all these tools and weapons and scissors and nasty, spiteful, sharp thingies of that nature, each one does a damage in itself, but it takes a lot of energy, a lot of breath, stamina. So you have to be just in the right place at the right time, either like popping from the ground suddenly, or if you're feeling brave and you've got a good frontliner, you can get away and do a lot of damage all of a sudden. And we'll talk about the types of damage, because I don't think we've talked about that yet. So that's piercing, which will negate armor, most armor types. You've got the severing, which will actually remove parts of whatever you're attacking, depending on the enemy's sort of statistics and like what can be removed. Not anything can be removed, but so it's not too OP sort of stuff. You got blunt force, so that's things that if you build up enough stun attacks, sort of like enough bludgeoning attacks, as it were, you eventually will stun the adversary. So these are the damage types. Oh, these are the first types of, there's, poison, blight, and all these other lovely things. So what we're doing right now is I'm just drawing a little bit of a talent tree, because I thought before I was drawing the lines and they were fine. They kind of told the story of what I'm trying to achieve, but I thought they look a bit crap. So I thought I'd draw something a bit more interesting. So what I love the idea of is when I'm designing the character boards, I'm going to draw like creepy, almost mechanical trees, and that will be the visualness. Visualness? I'm not sure if that's a word. The visualness. So this one is spiteful, strike, and that's what we were talking about. Putting weapons on your tail. So when you run by a group of enemies, or I'll lose my voice, or if you whip it from the ground, blind, you'll do all these small attacks. So you could level up your character, or you can simply spend all your time, money, effort in gathering all these extra little bits to attach to you to do even more damage. So there's going to be a couple of ways you can play Nilfa. This one's just going to be scissors. So when you've unlocked or found or traded or made scissors, you can then use the scissor abilities. So that's quite cool, I think. And there will be like things like saw blades and stuff as well. And so you don't need to upgrade. You don't need to upgrade this. You just, once you get the scissors, you unlock it. So even if you don't have spiteful, well, you will, because that's your first thing. But straight away, as soon as you find them or whatever, you got them, and they'll do like an extra little bit of damage, and they do severing. So you could have a tail full of blunt instruments, severing instruments, and piercing. So a little bit more of a technical. As soon as I started a video, the boiler's gone off. Like it knows. It knows. I don't know why my finger's here holding the paper. Sorry, I just realised it's just in the way all the time. Go away. Maybe you can go over here. That's better. So this side, same as before. I'm just going to draw, a bit more of an interesting looking, creepy tree, talent tree, as it were. I think that's another thing that we find games sometimes loses. The fact that talent trees, they've got a wonderful name to them, like we should be making them trees. But a lot of caffeine today, so maybe that's where my mind's at today. Trees. So that's another original? No, your first ability that you get, the burrow. So essentially you would use the breath of the stamina, or action points, or whatever you want to call it, to go into the ground. Once you're in the ground, there's a mini game, and that will be a series of 6 to 8 dice. I haven't quite figured it out. And basically that will be, you'll use breath within there, under the ground, but you'll unlock a completely different talent tree of actions. And Armored Earth is an extension of Burrow, and what that does is sort of how I like to think of it thematically is your character's done it enough to sort of know where the best bits is to be under the earth. You're going through different thicknesses of ground and whatnot to like keep yourself more defense. So yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'd be amazed if it did make sense, but yeah, I think it made sense. Okay, so that's this is quite fun drawing the creepy tree. Oh no, is it weird that I'm enjoying this more than drawing the character today? Sorry, Nilfa, nothing against you. It's quite nice drawing trees today. I draw mostly character art and very concepty, so it's nice to draw some some other little bits. We have to talk about the flora and fauna. Wait, flora and fauna of the world too at some point, because that's a huge part of the game, and it actually will affect how the game works. So depending on sort of the weather as well. So you have to draw a weather card, you have to draw event cards every day, and then there's also the flora and fauna. Sort of not so much a drawing of cards, but you sort of you set them all up to start with. At the start of that cycle, which is kind of like, I guess, in a way, a portion of the playthrough. Ignore me. So you have to. Oh my goodness, I can't write a word and speak at the same time. 2 secs. So yeah, you have to negotiate the world and all of its different little bits and pieces, especially fauna and flora, flina, Barbara. You have to. God, I've got nothing going on in my head today. I'm really sorry. If anyone actually is listening to this, I'm really sorry. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, it's so depending on what creatures are around will affect how you hunt, you forage, and they can actually affect each other. So if you had, let's say, multiple creatures of the same sort, they would breed and then there'd be more. So if you went to go hunting for that particular type of creature, you'd get bonuses, bonus meat, and that's huge, because trying to have enough food to feed your settlement and yourself is a lot to do. But we'll talk about that more in another time, hopefully when I'm able to string together an actual sentence, which might be more useful than just listening to me ramble on. So yeah, I think we've kind of covered what I wanted to cover today. I'm going to do a few more branches because they're cool. And then this one can kind of maybe cross into that one. Again, I like the idea that talent trees would kind of intertwine with one another. Though I feel like because she's sort of an undergroundling, oh, that's a cool name, undergroundling. I like that. Maybe instead of talent tree, it would be talent roots. And instead of stood above the ground, she'd be underneath, like curled up. I thought that'd be quite cool. So we talked about ground attack before. So that's when you're actually doing damage to someone. We move this down very slowly. You can attack those when you're still underground, but at a penalty for, chance to actually hit. Underworld Dweller, this is just sort of a development of your character in general, sort of making them travel further, maybe even having the ability to choose one direction with the random directions thrown into it because of the mini game. And I think that's pretty cool. We'll do Nilfa. And what should we do for her little symbol thing? We'll do a little wrap around here. I don't know why that reminds me of Soul Reaver, that little bit. Maybe there was a symbol, a rune or something similar to that. That's kind of cool. Reminds me of the alien as well. Nice. And you know what? We got a bit of time. We could just rub this out, can we? Try not to rush too much. And just enjoy the chatting. Which I must admit, it's sort of a skill I've had to kind of learn to do, just the talking, the process, and to think about what I'm drawing. And it's really helping me, figure out the characters as well as, actually, I feel like my drawing's got a little bit better in the last month doing these. And I feel like I can draw things quicker, and I'm almost able to have somewhat of a train of thought as well while I draw, which is quite new to me. So I normally just draw without the rambling. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to colour this little thing in because I think it look cool. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're enjoying this little series, and There's a few new videos up on the channel, so if you get a chance to check them out, please do. Anyway, I think oh, I kept drawing trees there. Sorry, that was probably off camera, wasn't it? But anyway, we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed, and you all take care. Bye.